I'm a limited human being with limited intellectual capacities, with limited time, with limited access. I haven't encompassed all of knowledge. Assalamu alaikum. There's a famous story about Imam Malik that is often cited and repeated and talked about, but if you look at behavior, you don't really see that type of behavior often. And the story is that Imam Malik was asked 43 questions in a setting, and out of the 43 questions, 37 of them, his answer was, I don't know. This is quite amazing. Imam Malik, this man comes to him from Iraq. The story goes, the man comes from Iraq, traveled this long distance, and he comes and finally gets to him, and he asks him all of these questions, and 88% of them Imam Malik had an I don't know answer. I have no idea. Now, if you think about the possibilities why somebody would say they don't know, there's really two possibilities. The first one would be they're genuinely ignorant of the answer. They just don't know. They don't have the knowledge for it. The other possibility, which is much more fascinating, is this person has such vast knowledge. This person knows so much that the answer that they think of, or the answers that they might have, they're not just aware of the answers, but they're also aware of all of the different ways their answers could be responded to and shown to be wrong. So that leaves them in a state of a bit of doubt about the certainty of the answer that they're about to give. And so they shy away from it and they say, I actually don't know. This is another level of knowledge for you to get to. There is a phenomenon in cognitive psychology called the Dunning-Kruger effect. You should look this up. It's really interesting. And many of us fall into this effect. And generally what it says is, basically what it says is that people that have low levels of knowledge overestimate their knowledge, and people that have vast levels of knowledge underestimate their knowledge. In other words, you see some young guys, some young girls talking about, let's say in this context, Islamic stuff, and they seem to have all the answers. They seem to be able to refute all the scholars. That right there is actually evidence, and especially with the zeal and things like that, is evidence that this person barely didn't even scratch the surface. They're just touching the surface of the matter. They didn't really get into it. And that's why they're able to speak with such certainty, such veracity. On the other hand, people that have vast amounts of expertise, what they end up thinking is, because they've been doing it for so long, they start to underestimate their knowledge by overestimating everybody else's knowledge. So they start to think that, well, everybody else knows this, so there's nothing really genuinely new that I can offer you here. They've been doing something for a while. They forget that how long it took them to do this, over how long of a period did they study, how much effort did they put into it. And it's become second nature to them that they start to overestimate everybody else's ability in the field. And so they start to think, well, everybody knows this. This is not really. So they start to underestimate themselves. And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The lesson from this to get is, look at Imam Malik saying, I don't know, to 88% of the questions he's being asked. Yet at the same time, it's Imam Malik. I mean, the reason he's Imam Malik and the reason that we talk about Imam Malik is because he was that person. And more importantly, when you leave that element of, or you recognize, this is actually something I really I noticed when I was reading the commentary, or if you look at the margins of the Imam al-Iraqi's commentary on the hadith in the Ihya Ulumuddin, when he's commenting on the veracity of some hadith that Imam al-Ghazali is quoting and citing. Imam al-Iraqi, who's a muhaddith, this is like someone who's a hadith scholar, a master in his field, even wrote a 1,000-line poem about the science of hadith. It's one of the stable kind of texts that is being studied by students of knowledge who study hadith. Yet, when he's commenting on some hadith, he doesn't give unequivocal, certain, absolute statements about hadith that he deems to be weak or fabricated or unable to be verified. He takes ownership of it and he says, "Lam aqif alayh." Often he just says, "I didn't find this hadith. I haven't come across it." So he doesn't give an absolute statement saying that, there's absolutely no source for this. It doesn't exist whatsoever. He just says, "I'm a limited human being with limited intellectual capacities, with limited time, with limited access. I haven't encompassed all of knowledge. But from the knowledge that I have and what I've come across, this doesn't fit in with what I know. And that is intellectual humility. Just to recognize that no matter how much knowledge you get, you should recognize that, calm down, you haven't encompassed everything. And so this really goes with anything. If you want to learn, you know, there's this story that's, it's usually, people tell it from different angles. It's either a Chinese sage or a Muslim scholar. I mean, it's the same story, which is a student comes to the master, a student comes to the sheikh, a student comes to the teacher and says, I studied with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, and I know all of these texts and this text and that text, and I've memorized this and that. And the master or the sheikh lifts up a jug of water and starts pouring water into a glass, and the water starts to pour over because and he keeps going, and the student says, what are you doing? You're wasting water. And he says, oh, what's wrong? And the student says, well, the cup is full. And he says, oh, it's full. Well, you seem to be full. There's really nothing for me to offer you. So when it comes to Islam, really the point I'm trying to drive to you guys and to remind myself, especially when it comes to Islam, is recognize your limitations and remember how old you are and how much time you spent studying this tradition. And recognize what all of this is really about. You're not here to refute people. You're not here to fight with everybody. You're here to get closer to your Lord. And if you're here to get closer to your Lord, your first concern should be about you. Should be about your ignorance, about what you haven't encompassed, what you haven't studied. And when you come across things that sound odd, weird, from reputable figures, reputable scholars, that you just, I don't know, this doesn't really fit in with what I have, your best bet is to just zip it, you know, be quiet a little bit and just go like, huh, this sounds interesting. Don't try to go and refute and debate on all these things. Give yourself time to take up the knowledge as it comes. And the more humble you are, the more open you'll be when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up the doors for you, so that you can recognize them when they're opened. This is just really a reminder to myself, of course, before anybody else, but I'm hoping that you get benefit from this. Anyways, subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you guys have been enjoying this content. I've changed the background a little bit and all of this stuff, and I'm adding more stuff to the channel. To show your support, the best thing you can do for me is to like the video and to share it with your friends and family and your social network, and just, you know, tweet it and Facebook it and all of this good stuff. Those of you who are able to give some financial support in some kind to help me make some more videos, I've got a few projects that I'd like to get into. You can go to my Patreon page. The link for it is in the description box, or you can link right here. You can click right here for it, and you can help me out through that way. So anyways, I'll check you next time.